I changed this video concept a little to make it more positive because there's been negative things happening in the world right now. Yeah. Hey, Spuds, how's it going? It's Jamie. Welcome back to another video of Festival Channel. I don't know, but welcome either way. I'm very glad to have you here. Welcome in. And today we're looking at trans TikToks, which was supposed to be transphobic TikToks, but I thought we don't need to look at that right now. I want a more positive video in the ether. So we're looking at trans TikToks. A lot of these ones today are people calling out transphobia, which obviously means we are exposed to transphobia, but I kind of find it reassuring when it's being called out and we can look at people who are like, this is dumb, as in transphobia is dumb, which we all know it is. And of course, if they're muted, it's because they have copyright music. I do apologize. I would do my own music, but I feel like not very many people would carry on watching the video. I would rather work out in a normal gym than with a bunch of pick-me turfs trying to figure out what's in my pants. That is very true. I made a post recently that was like, would you rather share a bathroom with a trans person who is just there to go to the bathroom, or with a turf who may be overly scrutinizing you and thinking about what's in your pants? Because I know who I'd rather share a bathroom with. What angle are turfs coming at? They're literally just creating little bigoted bubbles for themselves. Maybe that is the angle. That aren't any safer for women than if you were just inclusive of all women, and really make a lot of women feel alienated and worried about using those spaces, because as we're already seeing, masculine cis women are getting harassed and kicked out of women's spaces because people are assuming they're trans and having some panic about it and like, oh my God. And it's both really, really crappy for trans women and cis women. So it's nice to see women speaking about like, I don't want to share a gym with turfs. I will just go to a nice inclusive gym. Thank you very much. I'm assuming this is in reference to the trans exclusionary gym stuff that happened recently, where the founder was like,
oh, I'm gonna be nice trans inclusive. Yeah, trans women are women. Oh, no, I'm not. By trans women. You're not allowed in.
Very weird turn of events. Asking Texas A&M, what are your pronouns? Wait for a Texas A&M professor being hateful. Oh dear.
Question is, what pronouns do you use?
He, him.
I use he, him pronouns.
He, him.
Okay. I use she, her.
He, him.
He/him.
He, him.
Okay.
He and him.
She, her.
Him. He, him.
Honestly, whenever I've seen one of these, I know it's saying like wait for the hateful person at the end, but normally when you see these, I guess it all depends on the angle of the interviewer, although I do believe that a majority of people are not so extremely transphobic that they defy all laws of language and grammar and just absolutely deny to have pronouns. But I've seen ones where it's just like person after person after person going,
I don't use pronouns. What are pronouns? No, I don't use those trans pronouns. Pronouns? What? No.
And it's just like a string of people doing that, and it really makes you lose a little bit of faith in humanity. And then you see this and you're reminded that, oh, that was probably incredibly cherry picked, and it's just like a minority of people who are that extreme in their rejection of anything they would associate with trans people.
I don't know. I go by he, him.
Just they, them. They, them.
He, him.
Obviously, I use he, him, duh.
Perfect. Yeah, I try not to assume
Duh.
people's pronouns. That's why I ask.
I hate that bull crap.
Okay, why? Because people do use alternative pronouns.
There's male and female. We don't have.
There's intersex as well.
It's very rare.
More intersex
And
people than
non-binary.
redheads. Are redheads rare? I'm just being for real.
Also, I don't get this whole argument of like,
Yeah, but it's uncommon. Yeah, but it's...
it still exists. It's still a thing. Like being trans is rare. Still exists. It's just such a nothing argument of like, oh no, don't bring intersex people into this conversation because they're so rare. They don't count. Of course they count. Are you dumb?
This is true honesty.
It's biology, man.
Yeah, I know
Get real.
intersex people are biologically true and real. Are they not? Do redhead people not exist? So we only have brunettes. We only have.
People think they are something that they're not. It's a mental problem.
Is it?
Did he say when people believe there's something that they're not, it's a mental problem? When you actually listen to people being transphobic, they just don't sound coherent. They just don't have anything to say. It's like having an argument with a child who, you know, when people post those compilations of like reasons my toddler cried today, and it's like, I wouldn't let him eat a cockroach. I took away his empty food bowl and he started crying, and there's no like reasoning with a toddler. They're just having a bit of a meltdown because they're so young and they don't know how to deal with their emotions yet. That's what transphobes feel like. It's like, why do you have this opinion? And then just crying over trans people with no explanation. conversation. It's just a temper tantrum.
It feels like the judgment is more of a mental problem to me. I'm just being true, and I don't like people that...
This is one.
Okay, great. Love thy neighbor.
I appreciate the interviewer because it's really, it doesn't cost anything to be kind. And sometimes I'm like, it's really tiring seeing people be transphobic and calling it out. But at the same time, like, not that I have any empathy towards them. If you're transphobic, if you're like a piece of poo to the trans community or any other marginalized group within society, just go away. But like, that can't be a happy existence. I am a believer in karma, honestly. This man came to a hearing to oppose trans youth rights, but changed his mind. Oh, I heard about this, but I've not watched the video because I wanted to do a blind react.
First of all, I'd like to apologize to you people. I was invited here to give my support for Bill 401.
I'm just going to pause it to Google Bill 401. This seems to be something about banning drag queens. Oh my God. 104 was banning gender-affirming care for people under the age of 18. Okay, I'm not sure specifically what bill, but we can hazard a very strong guess that it's something to do with being anti-LGBT+, probably more specifically anti-trans in some way.
I have very little knowledge of gay people and things like that there. So when I came here, my eyes were open. I was one of the critics that sat on the side and made the decisions there was only two genders. So I got an education that was unbelievable. And I don't know just exactly how to say this, but my perspective for people have changed. So I don't take up no more of your time. I'd like to apologize for being here, and I learned a very lot about this group of people.
That shows the importance of education and open conversations and people being willing to listen. And it's so difficult to know if people are in that headspace of being receptive, because if they're completely closed off to any other opinion or worldview other than their own, if they're just like, I'm anti-LGBT+ and that's it, can't really explain why, that's just how I operate in the world, and they are like, I don't want to listen to anything else, they are very, very unlikely to make any kind of progress in being more accepting of LGBTQ+ people. However, if they go in there with an open heart and being like, okay, this is my opinion, like, and maybe it's completely subconscious that they did this, but they listened. Like, this guy listened, and like, age is not an excuse. Clearly, even when you are older, you can learn new things about the world and change your perspectives and admit to being wrong. And I think it takes a lot of courage to sit up there and say, I was wrong, I've learned something, and I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna advocate against this group of people who I now actually know a lot more about. And by knowing a lot more about them, he doesn't want to speak against them, which I think says everything you need to know. The people who are homophobic and transphobic and want to take away the rights of LGBTQ+ people, you will find out that they actually do not know anything. So many transphobes don't even know the difference between a trans man and a trans woman and get them mixed up all the time, and they think the only type of trans person there is a trans woman, and they have all of these really bizarre beliefs about the trans community. And I'm like, if they would just be receptive to reading something or listening to something about the truth about the trans community, maybe they too would be like this guy. So I think that's quite beautiful. I like that one. I feel like the song is very relevant, but I can't play it because it's copyrighted. It's the I'm Just a Girl by No Doubt. When you transition but still hang out with your childhood guy friend group. Okay, how wholesome is it? Though there's a trans woman who is still very much accepted and friends with and hangs out with all of the guys that she became friends with in childhood before she transitioned. Isn't that so cute? I love that. I feel like it's not something you hear about very much.
Trans people have actually never made me feel unsafe in my entire life. You know who does make me feel unsafe? People who hate trans people.
Truth.
People that don't accept transness. You guys are animals. So I love the argument that you're trying to like protect women, and it's like, sweetie, we want to be protected from people like you, not from trans people. Just so you know.
That was a very valid call out on the TERFs. They're like,
Yeah, hi, I'm being transphobic in the name of feminism because I want to protect women from trans people.
and there's just all these like really great ally cis women going, no, what? Because the transphobes have drawn a monster, labelled it trans, and gone, oh my God, you need to be scared of this terrible monster like we are. And everybody's like, you've made that up. There is no monster. What is wrong with you? TERFs are fighting their made-up monster whilst predatory cis men are still getting away with shit. And they are actually just pulling focus, pulling resources, pulling finances, pulling time away from predatory cis men being dealt with. They are literally rolling feminism back and they're celebrating it.
Hi, my name is Justin. I'm 62 years old. I'm a trans man, and I began my journey.
A trans guy in his 60s, magic. Trans people and LGBTQ plus people in general, it's been so difficult to see those older role models.
I've transitioned in 1984, so we're going on 41 years. 41 years that I have lived as me. It's been more than I could have ever imagined. At this point in my life, I'm married to the most amazing woman. We're going on 14 years. I'm the proud papa of 12 four-legged dogs.
I thought he was gonna say like 12 grandkids, and I was like, wow, that's too many. But dogs, okay.
And I do own a company, and I've actually been working for myself for 42 years. So I had the opportunity to do that. So I think I had it a lot easier in a lot of ways than a lot of my trans siblings. But there's been adversity along the way. We're humans, we live in this world. But nothing ever compared to this. And to all my young trans siblings, be very kind and gentle and loving to yourselves, and listen to people's advice and wisdom, but don't listen to who they think you ought to be. You listen to yourself. You follow your way. It's your journey. It's your journey.
I do not want to cry on a Monday afternoon. Oh my god. He transitioned in the 80s. He has such a good beard. Oh wow. I love that we are starting to see more of this. There's a few older trans people who share stuff on social media now, and it's so important to see in that message to like younger trans people and showing like just this guy living as himself and having a happy, fulfilled life with his partner and his dogs and his business and just doing his thing and showing that this is not a phase and that this is who people are, and trans people have always existed and will always exist.
I'm going to say this with my whole chest. So, if your feminism does not include trans women, you're not a feminist. You're a so, get pink eye.
I agree. You're not a feminist. If your feminism does not include all women, you are not a feminist, trans women or women. If your opinion of the world goes against that fact, then you're not a feminist. Sorry, and you're transphobic, so go away.
I was just getting ready, but quick question. If it's not all men, why is it all trans women? One more time. If it's not all men, why is it all trans women? Do I need to say more, or do you get it?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be all trans women because it's not about protecting anybody, it's about transphobia. It will be the same people who shout, and these will be feminists who are like,
not all men are like that, no, but all trans women. No, trans women are the dangers.
Yeah, I hear that. Cis straight women dancing at Pride after refusing to accept trans women into their spaces. They'd better not be. If you are transphobic, what are you doing at Pride? I've heard this so much where historically so many cis straight women have found safety and solidarity and comfort within LGBT plus spaces. And now there's a group of cisgender straight women turning on the LGBTQ plus community. And it's like, do you know how frequent it will have been that a cis woman will have been helped by somebody who is trans, like a trans woman, and they would have shared a bathroom with her in these spaces and found safety and solidarity in that. And guess who from? Predatory cis straight men, because they are the real problem. It's predatory cis men. They are the ones that are harming women. I cannot get my head around it. As shit as recent things have been with the Supreme Court ruling in the UK and all of the crap that's going on in America and other parts of the world for the trans community right now, particularly, so when I'm filming this, the Supreme Court in the UK just did not do a ruling that was good for trans people whatsoever. They basically ruled that a woman is defined by biological sex, so excluding trans women from that definition and including trans men in that definition, and leaving no space in the conversation for intersex people, non-binary people, not even mentioning trans men either. This was all an attack on trans women, but it's going to impact the entire trans community, and it's going to impact many cis women in negative ways, and there was just no thought about what it actually meant to make a ruling like that, and everybody's been completely shocked by it. Whilst the half dozen TERFs are celebrating, tens of thousands of people showed up in support of the trans community at over 30 protests across the UK. So many cis allies using their platforms to come out and speak up for the trans community. Like so many cis women being like, I am not threatened by trans women. I don't know what's going on with the cis women who are. And like that has been a positive thing to take from this whole situation, that I think it's really shaken not just the trans community, but anybody who is not transphobic as well is like, oh, holy shit, that's not good. Talking of the protests, I found a little compilation clip that showed the London protests that happened, and I think about 20,000 people showed up. I like, look at this crowd. Oh my God. This is so many people. And like every year in both Brighton and London, tens of thousands of people show up in support of the trans community. It's just an unfortunately powerful, loud, rich minority who are the bigots and pushing things. For in the UK at least, that's what's happening. I mean, in contrast, this was the image outside the Supreme Court the day that the TERFs had their victory. There's like, what, under 10 of them? And I only found one thing that said there was a counter protest that occurred against all of these lovely trans protests, and it was very, very small, and they were booed away very, very quickly. So it's like, where are the numbers? Where are all these cis women that agree with you then in your transphobia? It's maybe like they don't exist. Oh, and if we want to have a chat about JK Rowling for a second, somebody did a search through her Twitter and was like, she claims to be doing all these transphobic things in the name of feminism, but where is she using this platform when actual issues come up, where she could actually be a feminist? So let's just have a look at what she has to say.
JK Rowling isn't an anti-trans extremist, she's just pro-women's rights. Cool, okay, let's take a look at her socials and see what she said about some of the most prominent issues affecting women in the UK. Okay, let's just start off simple. Something like equal pay, for example. I'm sure Joanna said plenty on it. Oh wait, no, not a thing. That's... Moving on. What about waspy women? I would have thought that JK Rowling would have had a lot to say about that, so you can imagine my surprise when I found that she said absolutely nothing. What about maternity leave? Yeah, no, nothing at all. Nothing about how low statutory maternity pay is in this country. Nothing about the potential workplace discriminations that women face when they choose to have children. Nothing. What about austerity, which disproportionately affected young single women, especially those that were mothers? Oh, nothing at all. I could have sworn JK Rowling said that she was left-wing. Now, when you look at our essay and Male Vogue, JK Rowling has said and done a lot. She's a past victim of it and has used her fortune to fully fund a refuge in Scotland that, of course, excludes trans women. But at this point, are we surprised? I know, let's take a look at what JK Rowling has said about childcare. Well, other than the time that she called out Dominic Cummings for using childcare as an excuse for breaking lockdown rules, she hasn't said anything about the state of childcare in this country. What about FGM? Well, the only time that she's mentioned it explicitly was when she used victims of it to defend herself and her supporters from accusations of transphobia. Other than that, not a word. What about endometriosis, which affects 1.5 million women in the UK? JK Rowling has said one thing about it, and of course it was in a statement going after a trans person. Now, the point I'm trying to make, but I would hope it's pretty evident at this point, is that for someone people claim as a prominent women's rights campaigner, she is awfully silent on a lot of the women's rights causes in this country that would definitely benefit from JK Rowling's voice and financial backing. So the question is, why isn't she backing them?
Because it's not about protecting women, it's about being transphobic. Yay. Honestly, do not do this. I'm not recommending it. But if you literally were to do a quick scroll through her Twitter account, it is not speaking up on women's rights issues. It is not being a feminist. It is not campaigning for women. It is transphobia. There is a ludicrous amount of tweets that she's written, shared, quote retweeted, that are just transphobia. When did this become a prominent feminist issue? When a TERF decided? When a transphobe was like,
Oh, oh, do you know how we get more people on board with being transphobic? We link it and we put it that trans people are the bad guys. Yes, make them the villains.
That's what's happened. It is classic villain behaviour to flip the script and victimise yourself, which is exactly what TERFs have done.
I'm sorry, but I can't get that picture that's on the front of many of the red tops this morning out of my head. It's grotesque.
Mm-hmm.
I'm normally about cats and colour and vintage vibes on here, so I do apologise, but I can't let it pass without comment. What was she thinking of? Why did she choose an image that reeks of wealth, power and privilege to celebrate that victory over a persecuted minority?
I wonder.
She's constructed the image, hasn't she? It's not a random snap. So she's considered what she's saying by holding a big old cigar and having a drink, $4,000 in the jewellery, being on her luxury yacht. Do you know that 25% of trans people have experienced homelessness at some point in their lives? Disproportionately, they're poor. So what is she saying through that image?
Honestly, sometimes it feels like she's just bored. So I've got all the money now. What do I do with it? What do I dedicate my life to? And instead of it being something meaningful and good and constructive, it's like, oh, being hateful. That will really help my legacy.
Seems to be that it sucks to be you.
I would agree. Imagine creating something with the reach and the notoriety that Harry Potter has. And instead of being like, oh, what an amazing legacy to create something that generations of children are going to grow up knowing about and love. We're not going to get into the problems with it right now, but imagine creating that and being a billionaire who lives in a castle and has a super yacht, and then deciding to dedicate your life, or seemingly from an outside perspective, dedicate your life in quite an obsessive way to hating on a marginalized community within society. How hate-filled do you have to be to do that? How empty do you have to feel to do that? And she will literally have the same trajectory as Anita Bryant, who was a celebrity in her own right, granted not with the same level of notoriety as JK Rowling, but she was a celebrity. She was known for advertising Florida oranges and I think in music and things like that. But like, I'm not even sure. I've read about her and I can't remember that bit as much. I remember the Florida orange bit, and she was known before she then started going on a homophobic rampage. And now that is what she is best known for. You Google Anita Bryant and it's all homophobia. It's nothing about what she did. It's nothing about the career and any other legacy that she built. And genuinely, 20 years from now, you Google JK Rowling, it is all going to be about her transphobia. It's all going to be things like JK Rowling, best known for her transphobic and her anti-trans campaigning, who also happened to write Harry Potter. That's it. And why would you want that? Why? And imagine sitting on your super yacht smoking a cigar, celebrating doing something that is actually going to harm all women, cis and trans. What an own goal.
I will not be addressing you by your chosen pronouns. If you look like a man, it's sir. If you look like a woman, it's ma'am. It's not my job to validate your mental illness.
Okay, sir, since we're all about calling things exactly as they are, I just want you to know that this little philosophy of yours doesn't just affect trans people. It affects anyone who doesn't fit your idea of what a man or woman should look like. So, by your own logic, if someone looked at you and didn't immediately think you were a woman, because let's be honest, that's a very real possibility, would you just accept being called sir? Or would that suddenly feel like an attack on your identity? It's almost like appearances aren't always a perfect indicator of gender. And maybe, just maybe, basic human decency should outweigh your desperate need to be rude. But hey, keep fighting the good fight against people just existing. It appears to be doing wonders for you. If I were you, I'd be a little less concerned about pronouns and a little more concerned about how bigotry really seems to age a person. If bitterness was a skincare routine, you'd be the before picture.
Well, what Rowley says, it makes the cortisol rush through your body, which ages you prematurely. And I do think that when you find out that people are horrible on the inside, they start to genuinely look horrible on the outside to you. I just think people who are just so negative and hate-filled and horrible do age poorly. Just gonna say that. And this is the whole problem that's happening right now as well with the Supreme Court ruling in the UK, impacting cis women as well, because these bigoted cis women that are saying this are sat there going,
I can always tell when someone is trans. I can always tell when someone is cis.
they've not even thought so far ahead to see how this could impact both cis and trans people, because I feel like their assumption is that they will always be able to tell when someone is trans, and regardless of how feminine a trans woman might be, they will still refer to her using he, him pronouns, because it's not about appearance, it's about misgendering and disrespecting trans people, and they think that they will just always be able to tell who is trans. But you cannot, and this has been proved time and time again, and it's like, why are you even trying to? What is it to you whether somebody is trans or not? That's not your business unless they decide to share it with you. And it is going to impact a lot of cis women, this attitude, this transphobia. It's a shame that it impacting trans people wasn't enough to really get people riled up and speaking about it. However, at least more people are riled up and speaking about it now that there's a very, very clear line of evidence and there's a clear pattern of how this has been and will continue and will increasingly continue to impact cis women as well as trans people.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Oh, what a dick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If they're gonna do it to you, do it back. They sound stupid doing it. Obviously, you do not call Sarah McBride a man because she is a woman. So show them how stupid it sounds.
Keating, also wonderful.
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
sorry.
could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said?
Oh, he's getting called out.
When you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America, please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Oh, he doubled down. Oh, remove that man immediately.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this
You
hearing.
will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
He adjourned the hearing rather than respecting a trans person. Honestly, I love seeing that dude stick up for Sarah McBride. I don't know who he was. I think she did a great job of sticking up for herself as well. But at the same time, like, cis voices are more listened to. To the chairman dude who's being a dick, this fellow cis white guy is going to be a more respectable figure in his mind than Sarah McBride, a trans woman. And so to get called out by someone he would see on the same level as himself is going to be a lot more powerful than being called out by somebody that he does not respect. And I hope he feels really stupid and embarrassed after that and goes and questions his life decisions. But the best comeback, Sarah McBride, Madam. Oh, he sounded like such an idiot.
Please stop talking about this court decision that was made yesterday about the definition of what a woman is and framing it within a victory for a feminist contest.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. Those people are like leftovers from the 1980s. They are exclusionary feminists. They are nothing to do with a modern feminist movement. And this is absolutely not a victory for women's rights.
Mm-hmm.
You realise what you have done. You know, we now all have to prove that we are women in order to get the services that we feel most comfortable in. Technically, I will have to prove that I'm a woman to be able to be searched by a female officer if I'm arrested by the police.
Yeah, the transport police have literally said that trans women can be strip searched by men, like male officers. But what stops those officers from just stating that any woman is a trans woman? And because trans people can change their birth certificates, how would you know? And like, how dystopian is it, the thought that you'd even have to consider carrying around your birth certificate to prove who you are? And even the concept that trans woman, it should begin and end with it being absolutely ludicrous that trans women would even be suggested to be strip searched by a man. And then there is the secondary impact of that onto cis women who wouldn't even need to not adhere to feminine ideals for an officer to just go, I think you're trans, I need to search you. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. How did they not see how stupid this is?
I mean, you could say, well, you look like a woman and you sound like a woman, but so do a lot of my trans female friends? And what about my friends who have got polycystic ovary syndrome and are a little bit hairy about the face? What about my friends who are quite tall and well built with square jaws and look a little bit masculine? What about them? This is not a victory for women's rights. This is a victory for the patriarchy. We have an actual real fight still on our hands. One woman every 3 days is killed in the UK by a cis man. That is where the problem is, not with a persecuted minority. Honestly, just put your energies somewhere where it's really needed and stop picking on a persecuted minority. You are doing the work of the patriarchy for them.
Don't buy Harry Potter, kids. I'm sorry that a lot of this is about very similar themes and JK Rowling is coming up a lot, but I hope it's more of a positive, reassuring angle to see how many people are speaking out, how many cis allies, how many trans people, or just how many people generally are speaking out against the transphobia that's going on at the minute. Obviously, the content is going to go down the direction of what's happening at the moment.
Because I have a lot of respect for JK. I respect the tenacity and drive that woman has in destroying her legacy. Like, it's amazing to watch. Like, she wrote Harry Potter. That's the biggest book series ever. She's a billionaire. She lives in a castle. She has nothing in this life to prove to anyone. And now she just spends her days on Twitter, causing havoc, destroying dreams, and just doing it for the love of the game. It's amazing to watch. Carefully building this world for misfits to escape to, gets them all in there, is now like, look at these freaks! Awesome. She's a legend, man. Don't anyone let you tell you different. She's a fucking legend. She's had so many different periods online. She had this weird period where she was trying to like win niche political arguments, but using her own characters. She'd say things like, well, Dumbledore would have never voted for Corbyn. You can't do that. That's a wizard you made up. You can't win arguments with wizards you've made up in your own head. That's why I like to read through all her mad tweets and sort of imagine that Harry Potter was never written. So it just sounds like a mad woman at a bus stop, like, Severus Snape likes Nick Clegg. What are you talking about? I think my favourite JK period was her woke era. Do you remember her woke era? She'd like retroactively make Harry Potter a lot woker than it actually was. She'd say things like, well, Dumbledore's actually gay. Yeah, he was gay the whole time. I'm not going to mention it in the books because that'd be disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
Ron's a sex worker, thank you very much. Respect his rights. I've never seen an artist retroactively make their work woke. I think more artists should do that. Be great, if Francis Ford Coppola came out. Oh, you think The Godfather's problematic? Well, I think the Corleones were going through a lot, seeing as they're all trans. You come to me on the day of my daughter's surgery? Like, I think there's some...
Oh my god. It goes back to the Anita Bryant conversation. If you detach the emotions from it and the attack on actual human rights, it is ludicrous, it is funny, it is so bizarre to watch. It's fascinating. It's like watching this absolutely bizarre documentary about somebody unpicking the stitches of their own legacy and like the respect that people had for them and just being like, no, I don't want it anymore. Look at me now. But at the same time, if you're a trans person reading that, it's very difficult to separate it. And especially like the actual like real world harm it's caused. This is not just a celebrity being hateful. This is somebody with genuine influence causing genuine harm to communities. So yeah, I appreciate the light relief because it's very, very hard to see any kind of like humor in it often. And that is all the trans TikToks for today. What did we think? I hope you liked the video. You think about giving a thumbs up and subscribing if you want to. And if you want to go support me on Patreon, you can. You can see the names going up the side of my lovely Patreons. And I want to say a big thank you and shout out to my top tier patrons: Chloe, Night Soul, Jill B, Nesta, Sugar Joe, Ioana Balash, Elden K, Rye Loves Rory, The Third Hatman, Jaden Cricket, Max Makes Mods, and River Champagne. So yeah, go click that link if you want to see your name on screen and have the other perks of Patreon. It really does help and support and allow me to keep on creating and doing this wonderful job. So thank you so much to everybody who supports me over there. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching. Go join the conversation down below in the comments and I will see you next time. Much love. Bye.